The oldest known human footprints in North America have been discovered at this incredible place. I'm Richard.
And I'm Gary, and these are our incredible stories. Hello and welcome back to all of our listeners from around the world and across the United States. We're happy to have you back with us for some more incredible stories. And if you are joining us for the first time, welcome. Welcome to the party. We hope that you stay, sit, grab yourself something to drink, and get ready to enjoy some very exciting stories. If you like what you hear, and let's say you would like to hear some more incredible stories, well, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button right there. And every Friday, your ears will be treated to the sweetest sound, our voice, and some of the most incredible stories you'll ever hear. So please take advantage of that. It's absolutely free, no charge to you.
Well, I don't know if both our voices are sweet. I've always thought of sweet and sour as a pair.
Well, they complement each other.
Oh, we're happy to have you folks with us again. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we understand that you're listening to us in 56 different countries around the world and across the United States. And all I can say is we're absolutely thrilled every time we come into the studio to create a story just for you. Tonight, Gary, we're going to be talking about one of the most incredible places on earth, and it's a place you have been to.
Where's that?
White Sands National Park in Alamogordo, New Mexico.
Oh, my old stomping grounds.
Mm-hmm. And maybe we can start off going down the old memory trail. Tell us a little bit about your childhood experiences there at White Sands.
Oh, I just thinking about the days I used to spend running around the open desert, playing with rattlesnakes and beetles.
Yeah, really.
No, my fondest memories of living in New Mexico were going out to White Sands because you worked out there as a seasonal park ranger.
Yes.
And the coolest thing was you would call us and say, hey, they're filming a movie, or hey, they're filming a TV show or a music video out here. Come on and check it out. And so I got to be on a lot of movie sets. I got to be on a lot of commercial sets and music video sets. I got to see a lot of really awesome stuff. And I really think that fed into my interest in film, television, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And the movie White Sands.
Yeah, with Mickey Rourke and...
you remember those sets and the tanks and everything?
Yeah, I think...
Oh, that
was Tank Girl. Tank Girl was the one where they had the tanks. White Sands, they had a few things out there. I didn't really... the only thing I remember is there was a lot of celebrities in town. William Dafoe was in town. Mickey Rourke, some other people. I remember one time Chris O'Donnell and Drew Barrymore were filming a scene from whatever movie they were doing, and they were in town when that happened. I mean, we've had a lot of people come out there for a lot of different things. Janet Jackson came to do a music video out there. I mean, we had a lot of people.
Plus, let's think about all the recreational time you spent out there. Many picnics in the picnic benches and the
so
picnic
many
areas.
Picnics.
Also, just sliding down the dunes.
Yes, I always had fun doing that. Found a snowboard one time, and somebody had ditched it there, and so you had picked it up, and so I didn't know how to snowboard, so I spent most of my time on my rear end. But did I have fun doing it? Yes, I did.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, and one of the weirdest things, but I think it's what all children have done at some point, was going to the top of the dunes and flinging myself off and just tumbling uncontrollably down until I smacked into the ground.
Oh, such fun. And
so
you
much
didn't really
fun.
smack. It was a very soft landing.
It was, yeah. Well, you start to lose momentum once you get a little bit further down. But
the sand actually holds you back.
Yeah. But I tell you what, it's fun. And I'd always come home with sand in my hair and my ears, between my toes and up my nose.
Oh, yeah.
Good times.
And, of course, we did something that I have to keep halfway secret. I don't think my supervisors would have been happy if I told them this, but every once in a while I'd let you jump into the patrol car and run around at night in the patrol car when I was closing the park.
Oh, they all knew that. they all knew that because you
were
would take
kinda
me
like
up to the
park mascot.
There you go. You would take me over to the area because the Rangers lived right there on site.
Yeah,
a lot of them, not all of them, but the full-time Rangers
Full-time
did.
Rangers, right.
They lived
right.
there on site. And so, of course, they saw, and you'd swing by and talk to them, and they'd say hi and whatnot. So, yeah, I was no stranger to anybody out there.
Yeah.
I remember helping you close down the park a few nights.
Yeah, that was fun, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
that was always fun. A little
that
bit
was
creepy, though, too, because I don't think anybody realizes when you're out there in the desert and it's nighttime and there's no city lights, it's pitch black.
Oh, yeah, but you can see every star in the sky.
Oh, you can. You can see every single star.
Unbelievable.
You can.
That night sky is
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous.
It is. Now, it's different when the moon is out. If you have a full moon, it's different. Then you can see a lot more. And it has a weird kind of eerie cast to everything. Living in the desert is a different experience, and one I always enjoyed. And the one thing I really miss about living out west, especially going to White Sands, in the evenings when the sun would set, you would have these amazing sunsets. And they would be gold, blue, purple, and red. And those colors, because the sand is white, the sand picks up the colors of that sunset. And so the sand is blue, purple, red, yellow.
Yeah, and the sky
it's just
was
gorgeous.
just like an artist's palette.
It is. It's
Unbelievable.
unbelievable. You really have to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
So and that is your personal
that was my childhood.
recollection of White Sands National Park. The United States of America recognized this as a very special place on January 18, 1933.
Yeah.
Now, I've got a little history trivia question for you on this.
Oh, share, please.
Okay, in 1933, Franklin D. Roosevelt was elected president.
Get out of town.
Yeah, and he'd served 4 terms. But on January 18, 1933,
Yeah.
President Herbert Hoover designated it as national park. How could that be?
Oh.
How could that be?
That's a good question. How is that? That's a little confusing.
Well, because here's a little known fact in history. At that time, a president was elected in November of the previous year
Yeah.
and then was not sworn in until March of the following year.
Oh.
Nowadays, the president is elected in the previous year, November, but is
Yeah.
sworn in January 20th.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
But even so, if it was January 18th, Hoover still would have been president. But I don't think Franklin Roosevelt took over till March. I could be wrong. But because at some point in history, that's the way it was. The president wasn't sworn in until
Sure.
March. So that's a little bit of history. By the way, this is the most visited park in New Mexico. 600,000 visitors a year
Wow.
come to this remote location to see this, I would say, one of the wonders of the world,
Yeah. Well, it's
one of the natural wonders of the world.
really, for anybody who lives out there, it's like going to the beach, but you just don't have water.
Yeah, and we've already talked about the beautiful sky and how the colors play on the sand. And now the park features, for those folks who might think about a visit, a drive from the visitor center into the heart of the dunes. They have the picnic areas. They have a backcountry campground in the dune field, and that's pretty rustic camping, Gary.
Oh, I know it is.
I don't think a beginner camper would be totally comfortable in that situation.
Well, at least you don't have to worry about bears.
Yeah, they had marked hiking trails. And of course, you mentioned the sledding on the dunes. And then the ranger-guided orientation and nature walks. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy, were they ever popular, especially the ones in the evening. The stargazing one was the most popular when I was there.
Yeah.
One of the rangers would talk about all the different stars and planets in the sky.
Yeah, they do that whole lecture about
Yeah.
the different constellations and everything.
Yeah. And so how big is the park, would you think?
Ginormous.
Ginormous? Yes. How about 145,762 acres? And out of that, there's a 275 square mile field of just white sand dunes. And those sand dunes are composed of gypsum crystals, Gary. That's what makes them feel so soft. It doesn't feel like sand.
No,
It's
it really
not rough,
doesn't.
grainy
It feels
sand.
like talcum powder.
Talcum powder, yes. That's exactly what it feels like. Now, I mentioned earlier in our little teaser that the oldest known human footprints in North America were discovered there. The researchers have identified approximately 60 fossilized footprints buried in layers of the gypsum soil, and then by carbon dating seeds embedded in the footprints, the scientists discovered that humans have been living in this region for around 23,000 a year.
Wow.
Which blew away the estimates of human arrival in North America between 13 and 16,000 years ago.
Wow, that's a...
And
quite a
there's
bit of
even
time.
evidence of early man campfires, although I don't know if those campfires go back 23,000 years, but they
Probably
could go
not.
back 1,000 or more. Now,
Yeah.
those areas are totally off limits to the public. The public cannot go there. They're not advertised. Nobody knows about them. Nobody knows where they are. And even as one of the rangers who worked at the park, I do not know where these fossilized footprints were located.
So you don't know where
No.
they are.
Only the archaeological ranger and maybe the superintendent.
They know.
But for the most part, nobody knows where those footprints are located. And the archaeological ranger did take me out to some of those early man campfires.
Oh, did he?
So I have seen those. But again,
Yeah.
they're totally, closed off to visitors. You cannot see them. Now, if we go back about 12,000 years, Gary, that wasn't just sand. There were giant lakes in that area, if you can
Of
believe it.
course.
Lakes and streams and grasslands, because the climate was actually wetter and cooler. And we know that in New Mexico now it's warm and dry. It's not
Constantly.
It's not wet and cool.
No.
And the water created one of the largest lakes in the entire Southwest, and they called it Lake Otero, and it covered 1,600 square miles.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a gigantic prehistory lake.
That's a big
Prehistoric
lake. It's a very big
Now,
lake.
as you can imagine, under this wetter environment, it teemed with life. There were small rodents and the rabbits, similar to what we have there today.
Yeah, they have jackrabbits and
Yep.
kangaroo rats and all
But
sorts of stuff.
In addition to these animals that you have actually seen there today, there were enormous Ice Age mammals.
Woolly mammoth.
Yep, mammoths. You're right. Ground sloths. You're not going to believe this, but we even had ancient camels.
Ancient camels?
Yes.
What's an ancient camel? What would an ancient camel... you know what? Now I got to Google it.
And they had wolves and saber-toothed cats.
I could say maybe the saber-toothed cats, but wolves, that seems a little... Coyotes, yes. Were there ancient coyotes?
So, okay, let's talk a little bit about these animals, Gary, for this incredible place. One of the ancient animals that's not there anymore,
Oh my gosh, I'm looking at the ancient camels. They don't
Was-
look anything like what I thought they would.
is that right? Describe it.
They have gigantic necks, but like a goiter, you know, like a huge goiter.
Oh, okay.
They're gigantic.
Ancient camel. Let's talk. They're commonly associated with Africa, but they actually originated here.
In the Americas?
Yeah, in North America.
Really?
Yep. And of course, there's some species that are extinct, but they roamed this continent
Oh.
in the Pleistocene era, and that giant probably looked a lot like the modern one-humped dromedary camels, but it also had longer legs. Can you see that?
I do. They actually have a comparison.
Okay.
They have a person who, let's see what it says on the chart. How tall? Okay, so their legs were approximately 6 foot long.
Yeah, up to 7 feet.
Yeah, up to 7 foot.
Which for our European friends, that's over 2 meters tall at the shoulder. And they grazed and browsed over the large ranges, and they left behind distinctive footprints. And that's why we know they were there at White Sands in the Pleistocene era.
I wonder what caused them to die out.
I don't know. Well,
I mean,
the climate change.
Well, yeah, but
it was wet and cool, and now it's hot and dry.
Right, but camels live in the desert.
And that giant lake just dried up.
Well, maybe that's more the problem, that the lake dried up because
Yeah.
that would have taken away a water source.
Supply, a giant water supply.
But I was going to say, I mean, camels live in deserts and can go long periods of time without water. They can store it in that large hump they have. But if there's no water to drink, period, then I could see why they probably would have migrated.
That long, yeah.
Not for not for several million years.
Yeah. They also had American lions there.
Lions?
Yep, lions. They were very fierce predators.
Really?
Yeah, they're about 4 feet tall. That's 1.2 meters
wow.
at the shoulder.
Yeah.
But they could weigh over 500 pounds, which is 230 kilograms. The American lions were large. They had long, slender legs, and of course that was well suited for chasing down their prey. And, well, they most likely hunted by ambush, Gary, and they preyed on the deer. They preyed on the camels.
Yeah.
And the ground sloths and the bison and even the young mammoths. So we also have what they call dire wolves back in the ancient days there at White Sands. That was one of the most common large predators in North America. They were large wolves, and they're about the same size as our modern gray wolves, but they have a heavier, more muscular build.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the American lion right now.
Okay.
Looks a lot different. I mean, not too different. You can tell it's definitely a lion, but the markings on it are different, much different. And what was the other one?
Dire, D-I-R-E, wolf.
D-I-R-E.
Wolf. A dire wolf. They had powerful jaws and a stronger bite than our modern wolves. And
Ooh, yeah, big.
probably they hunted in packs. I've got some more here. Are you ready?
Lay it on me.
Harlan's ground sloth. Now, the sloths were ancient relatives of the modern tree sloths and armadillos.
Yeah.
You've seen armadillos.
Yeah, and you know what? We actually have at our museum here, we have a giant ground sloth fossil. And we also have the giant armadillo.
Mm-hmm. And we'd see armadillos a lot dead on the side.
Yeah, I was going to say mostly on the side of the road.
Yeah.
I've seen a few of them in real life. I actually moved one from the road. I didn't pick it up because, from what I understand, they got a lot of bacteria on them. But that thing moved so slow, and it seemed like it was so riddled with anxiety about where to step off the road. Like he was looking for the perfect spot to go in the grass. And I was thinking, you're a small animal, a wild animal, in the middle of the road. There's not really a lot to be picky about. Just take your little self and move into the grass. And I kept trying to shoo him over there, but he put his toe in. He's like
I'm not going.
Well, I would say like a high maintenance dog. You know how you have these little dogs, are very high maintenance. They're not going to go in the grass because it's too high, or it doesn't feel comfortable. It's weird. So he had to move himself down until he found a little area of dirt that he was going to step off the road and then stand in the dirt and then make his way. But he wouldn't touch the grass.
Yeah. So these ground sloths, Gary, they stood 10 feet tall.
Oh, they're gigantic.
That's 3 meters.
Yeah.
They weighed over a ton. So for us, that's 2,200 pounds. And for our European friends, that's about 1,000 kilograms. And so these ground sloth tracks sometimes were mistaken for the tracks of a giant human.
Oh, wow. So they believe that giants existed.
Bigfoot. Hey, you know what? Maybe that's where the Bigfoot legend started.
Hey, you know what? You saying that out loud now. I mean, if you came across a ancient footprint in the woods,
Yeah.
I could see how it'd be easy to,
Yeah.
mistake that for something. Like, oh my gosh, I think there's a giant ape man out here.
The last one I have for you is the Columbian mammoth, and they're responsible for a lot of the mammoth tracks found there at White Sands. They were massive. They stood up to 14 feet tall.
Wow.
Yeah, that's over 4 meters, 4 meters tall. And they weighed 18,000 to 22,000 pounds. And like our modern elephants, they had large tusks. They had ridged teeth for eating plants. And because of their massive size and herbivorous diet, they'd have to eat a lot. Some scientists say that could have added up to them having to eat 16 to 18 hours a day. Can you imagine how you would look if you ate 16 to 18 hours a day?
Oh, I know what I looked like when I ate 18 to 16 hours a day. It did not work well for me.
Yeah. All right. So let's go from ancient times back to your childhood days. Here are some of the things we experienced at White Sands. Remember the tarantulas?
Oh my gosh! Don't get me
Giant
started about the
spiders?
tarantulas. Yeah, I remember. Mom also worked seasonal, but she worked in the ticket booth, and I remember one time, her and whoever she was partnered up with, they were in there, doing the visitors, getting their fee and
taking the visitors' fees.
taking the visitor fee and giving them admission, to the park, and they were in there counting the money, and a tarantula had gotten in,
And those things can jump.
they can jump, and so they were both freaked out because there was only one door to get into the ticket booth, and the tarantula had positioned himself near the door.
Yeah. Now, you're not allowed as a park ranger to kill any of the wildlife.
You cannot.
None of the wildlife.
No.
So when I had to go remove a tarantula from one of the outhouses there out in the park.
Was it the outhouse? Or, was it the tarantula or was it the rattlesnake?
No, that was the tarantula out there in the outhouse in the,
okay.
in the park. I had to use something along as a broomstick because I didn't want that thing jumping on me. And you couldn't just kill it, you had to let it go on its way.
Sure.
And you mentioned rattlesnakes. There were two different kinds that I came in contact with there. I saw a sidewinder one night in the parking lot when I was finishing up my shift.
I remember you
that thing
talking
was
about that.
moving along sideways, and boy, I tell you what, right away what kind of rattlesnake that is.
Oh, yeah.
But the rattlesnake you referred to, the regular kind, he was down in the women's restroom at the visitor center.
Front visitor center, yeah.
So I got a radio call. on while I was on patrol out in the dunes that there was a rattlesnake in the in the women's restroom, and so I had to come down and remove it. And so I headed that way, and I started thinking, okay, do I want to put on my emergency lights and siren and get there real fast? Or do I want to take my time
And hope he just goes away?
and hope that he just goes away? Yeah. Snakes and I, even though I was a park ranger, Snakes and I just weren't comfortable with each other.
So you weren't there for the wildlife. You were there for the...
the human wildlife is what I had to take care of mostly. So anyways, I said, oh boy, somebody's sure going to get hurt because they're going to treat this like Disneyland, and they're going to get right up close to it and take their pictures and get bitten. So I hit the lights and the siren, and I zipped on down the main road through the park and got there. And sure enough, there were some visitors, just a couple feet away from this rattlesnake taking their photos. I mean, I just couldn't believe, I could believe it because I thought maybe
people do those things.
Yeah. And so the first thing I did and of course, they were kind of startled when they saw a police car coming, with lights and sirens.
They probably thought they were in trouble.
And I said, folks, you may want to step away. That thing can really jump, and it is deadly. Mm-hmm. And so, so then they started to move back a little bit. And then I thought to myself, Richard, how are you going to get rid of that thing?
Yeah.
So we had a snake tool, a long pole that had a little hook-like device on it.
Yeah, a little grabber, right?
Yeah, that you could grab them by the head and carry them to wherever you wanted to carry them. And so it went down behind the little brick retainer wall. And so I reached down with my hook and got a hold of it and started pulling it up. And then when the snake started coming to view, I realized I had made a serious mistake.
Why? You had his tail?
I had his tail.
Oh, no.
So I knew that if I continued pulling him up over the retainer wall, once his head had cleared the wall and he saw me, I was going to be a goner. So I said, you know what? I'm going to have to administer a little attitude adjustment.
Yeah.
So I swung the pole in the little space was there a few times and knocked him around a little bit and kind of dazed him. And so when he started to kind of go limp, ooh, ouch, ooh, that hurts.
Yeah.
I said, okay, now I can get him out of there safely, and
Yeah.
which I did, and I got him into the wooded
brush
area real fast, and threw him into there with the hook and breathed a sigh of relief. But oh my gosh, he was still alive. I didn't kill him. But,
he went on his merry little way.
He probably needed some aspirin or Excedrin for for his headache. We had the beetles too. Remember the beetles and all the little neat tracks they'd leave?
The little black desert beetles. It's stink bugs. And it was what you could do. Of course, you could get yourself in trouble really fast. If you gave them a little tap on their back, they would stand on their head. But that little trick that they did, which was comical to all of us children, is a warning sign.
Yeah.
It says, if you keep tapping me or messing with me, I'm going to do something to you, and you're not going to like it. And that little thing that those little beetles do is spray out this juice that reeks. And once it gets on you, it's hard to get off, and it smells terrible.
You will stink.
Right. So once is okay. Twice is pushing it. You keep doing it, you're going to get sprayed by this. And I never got hit by it, but I remember one time I saw that fluid shoot out, and I jumped back because I knew what that meant. I had pushed my limits with this little beetle. But they did leave interesting little tracks, but they're harmless. They just make you smell bad.
Mm-hmm. And like I say, they leave the most incredible and interesting tracks.
Yeah, we used to chase after the little white lizards that were out there too.
Well, I've got two more samples here before we wrap up. One
Okay.
of them is oryx. Were you with me the night that an oryx walked across right in front of my patrol?
Yeah, I
car?
was with you with that one.
And tell our listeners what the oryx looks
So basically, an oryx is a type of antelope that is originally from Africa.
like. Yeah, looks like an
And
antelope,
it
too.
looks like an antelope, but it has these black stripes on it. It has these pointed horns that are very long, and they leap. I mean, like when they prance, they're leaping across when they're really going. But they can run too. They're fast animals. They're beautiful.
Yeah,
but
gorgeous.
they are not native to New Mexico. In fact,
No.
they were originally brought in from Africa, and they were brought there to be hunted. But they ended up thriving in that desert environment because it's so very similar to where they came from that it is very much a habitat that worked for them. So I don't know if I would say that. Would you classify that as an invasive species? I mean, they stay just right there in the park area. They don't go outside of it.
They're beautiful, and they don't harm anything.
No.
And so that's their new habitat,
Yeah.
and they're very comfortable there.
Right.
And, of course,
but you're not allowed to hunt them anymore, right?
No.
They're they're federally protected.
Oh, absolutely. Everything in the park is federally protected.
Yeah.
You can't kill anything.
But they're
Like
gorgeous.
Can't kill the tarantulas, can't kill the rattlesnakes.
But you can see them. We've seen them go across in front of your car, and I've seen them before grazing outside near the fence along the road.
Yeah.
And they don't go outside. I've never seen an oryx go outside the fence. They're pretty happy right where they're at.
Yeah.
But they'll go over there because sometimes you get the tall grass that grows right there next to the barbed wire, and they'll go over there and they'll graze on that. But I've seen them.
And mostly you just see them at night because during the daytime when people are around, they avoid the people.
They try and avoid the people, but that's not to say that you wouldn't. It's just it's harder to see them because they're trying to stay in their area.
Last but not least, the tarantula hawk wasp.
Oh, that's your story.
And this is how I came in contact with a tarantula hawk wasp. Mm-hmm. I had just finished a patrol up in the heart of the sand dunes and was driving into the kiosk area, the entryway.
Yeah, and you were with a partner
into the
too.
park. Yes, I was with a fellow ranger. She was in the passenger side. I was in the driver's side driving. And I felt this little sting through the heavy-duty park uniform pants that I was wearing. But I felt this little sting on my leg, and I looked down, and it looked like, oh my gosh, there's a bird. And it looked like a bird. It was as
Like
big
a
as a
hummingbird,
bird.
yeah.
And we knew that it was something that bit. So I pulled over in a heartbeat, and both of us bailed out of the car, leaving the doors open.
Yeah.
And the tarantula hawk wasp flew away. Can't kill anything in the park.
No.
But I got a heavy-duty bite from a tarantula hawk wasp, and they are really, you don't want to run into them.
No, in fact, I remember, and there's actually a guy on YouTube who experiments with animals and being stung by them. I can't think of his name right now, but he got stung by a tarantula hawk wasp and described the sensation. But I remember when you went through it,
I got cellulitis.
you got cellulitis from it, but the pain of being stung by a tarantula hawk wasp is excruciating.
Oh, you know you've been bitten by something.
It is because and the thing is, because it's a wasp, wasps can sting multiple times. They don't have to just sting once. They can sting as many times as they want. They're not like bees. Bees have a barb on the end of their stinger, so when they sting you, the stinger stays behind, and that's what ends up killing the bee, is because it gets ripped out. But wasps, they don't have that problem. They just sting. So you could be stung once or more than once. And those wasps, the tarantula hawk wasp, the venom from their stinger is so potent. It feels like you've been shot.
Yeah. So that was quite the thing. Although I think I only had 1 day off sick leave.
Oh no, you had a few days off.
Days?
You were at least a week or two because of the
Week.
cellulitis. And I remember you were laid up on the couch, and it was excruciating for you to move around, and your leg was red, like beet red.
Folks, do not get stung by a tarantula hawk wasp. Take it from me, who's had that experience.
Yes.
Well, Gary, we have spent our time sharing with our listeners one of the world's most incredible natural places.
That it is.
And if anyone has any way of getting to and visiting White Sands National Park in Alamogordo, New Mexico, it would be well worth your time.
Let me say this. There's a reason why they call New Mexico the land of enchantment. There's a lot of places.
That's one of the reasons it's
That's one of the reasons, yeah. But just in general, there's just so many amazing things to see throughout the state. It's definitely worth going. And we didn't talk about it, but I'll throw it in there. White Sands is also where they tested the atomic bomb.
Yes,
It's
close
part-
to there.
yeah, close to there.
Trinity site is close to there. It's part of the park.
It is.
But it's only open once a year because it's still radioactive.
Yeah, the atomic bomb.
Yeah.
But it has that history, and then, of course, the missile range in the Holloman Air Force Base back when the Gulf War was going on, and even after that.
They had the stealth fighter bomber.
Yep, they would frequently do military exercises at the park because it closely resembled,
And it's next
Middle
to
Eastern
White
deserts.
Sands Missile Range.
Right, exactly, where they do a lot of experimental.
Very interesting area.
Yeah, it's a fun place to visit, and it's got a lot of great history to it. So, well, until next time.
I'm Richard, fully recovered from the tarantula hawk wasp bite.
Yeah, at least 30 years later. And I'm Gary. And again, if you liked what you heard, like and subscribe to our show, and join us every Friday for new stories. Till next time.